Meg Calloway had put on her best dress that morning, her only good dress. Navy blue, neatly stitched, the collar clean. She kept it for special occasions, birthdays, important visits, moments when one had to be seen. She had taken it out of the wardrobe that morning. She had ironed it carefully the night before, because this was an important day. A new house, a new life, and her father had said, "You will be the lady of that house, my girl." The lady. Meg had turned that word over in her mind for days. The lady, the one who sits at the head of the table, the one who runs the estate, the one who is finally the woman. Someone asks, "And what is it that you want?" No one had asked her in 10 years, but now they would. That was what she had thought. They entered Blackwell Manor through the side door. Meg noticed. She said nothing. The corridors were long, stone, cold, high ceilings. Meg took everything in. The paintings, the carpets, the candelabras. There was money here, a great deal of money. Stairs. Not the main staircase, a narrow stone side stair. Meg slowed. The head housemaid did not turn. "It's shorter this way." The room was in the farthest wing of the house, a small window, a view of the stables, and a hook on the wall, a white apron hanging from it. Meg looked at that apron, 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Then she turned, looked at the head housemaid. "There must be a mistake," she said. Her voice was steady. "My father told me I would be the lady of this house." The housemaid looked at her, that cold, measuring gaze. "There is no mistake, Miss Calloway." And she left. Now wait a moment. What did Meg feel in that instant? Anger? It was there. But beneath it was something heavier, something more familiar. This is what she felt. Again. Once again, she had not been seen. Once again, she had not been counted. Once again, others had decided in her place, without asking what she wanted, what she thought, what she felt. It had been this way for 10 years, and it was this way still. Meg picked up her suitcase, walked to the door, went downstairs, crossed into the main corridor, walked toward the front door. She was leaving. She turned the corner and stopped. Thomas Hale stood in the very center of the corridor. Tall, broad-shouldered, his face carved in hard lines, his clothes impeccable, his posture impeccable. Everything about this man was exactly in place. There was a paper in his hand. He held it out to her. Meg did not take it. She looked. Numbers, debt figures, the Calloway family's debt, complete, with interest, with dates. "This," said the Duke. His voice was low, but every word precise. "Will be collected tomorrow morning if you walk out that door now." Meg lifted her head. "That is a threat." "That is a fact," said the Duke. "You stay here, the debt is suspended. You leave, my men will be at your father's door in the morning." Meg stood with those words. Father, ill house, debt. She could leave, but she could not take her father with her. She let the suitcase fall. In a single motion, she looked at the Duke. "Very well," she said, "but this conversation is not over. It is merely postponed." Nothing in the Duke's face changed, but for a moment, just a moment, something passed through his eyes. Meg did not see it. Had she seen it, perhaps everything would have been different. That night, Meg sat in her room. She looked at the apron for a long time, then she stood, took it, put it on, looked at herself in the mirror. And in her mind, not to anyone, only to herself, in that small room, in that faint smell of the stables. "What do you want, Meg?" No one had ever asked her that. This man had not asked either, but one day, someone would. She could not afford to wait until that day. How had she come here? 2 days earlier, in a carriage, alone, and she had cried only once in her life, 2 days earlier. Meg entered her father's room that morning. She straightened his coat, as always, 2 buttons fastened wrong, as always. Her father looked at her, hands trembling. "Forgive me," he said. Meg said nothing. She left. "We'll take a very short break. If you don't want to miss new stories, please subscribe to the channel." She was alone in the carriage. She did not look out the window. "If I look, I will cry. If I cry, I will not be able to get down." She fixed her gaze on the opposite wall, hands folded in her lap, back straight. 5 minutes passed, and then, because no one could see, a single drop. From her right eye, she wiped it. Once, neatly, never again. Her mind went back. 3 weeks earlier, past midnight, her father's study door had been ajar. 2 voices, her father and James. "If Blackwell sends his men tomorrow, they will break our door." "We'll find a way, father." "What way, James?" Silence. "Blackwell has made an offer. He will erase the debt. In return, he wants Meg." Meg waited, for an objection, for a no. "When does she have to go?" said James. 2 words, effortless. James's shoulders had dropped. Meg had seen it. A burden had lifted from him. That burden had settled onto Meg. Sitting in the carriage, remembering that moment, Meg thought, was she angry at James? No, that surprised her, but it was true. James had never had to grow, because he had never needed to. There had always been someone. There had always been Meg. Was she angry at her father? She did not know. He was a good man, a desperate man. And when he was desperate, he had used the only thing he had at hand. Meg understood that. Understanding was not forgiveness, but she understood. The carriage stopped. Blackwell Manor. Meg looked outside. Large, old, stone. She stepped down, and within herself, one last time, unheard, "I will not leave this place as a servant." The first morning, it was 5 o'clock. Dark, the smell of the stables. Meg rose, because lying down did nothing. When she entered the kitchen, everyone stopped. They looked. That look, the newcomer, unknown, dangerous or not. Agnes stepped forward, broad, red-cheeked, with the stance of someone who had spent 30 years in that kitchen. "Calloway." "Yes, you'll peel potatoes." Meg sat, began. 7 minutes later, she looked up. "These potatoes are from yesterday. They'll blacken by breakfast." Agnes turned. "I have been in this kitchen for 20 years. I know, I said it anyway." A long silence. Agnes set those potatoes aside, without a word, a small thing, but Meg counted it in her mind. 1. That day she walked through the house. As she worked, her eyes were busy. She scanned every room. Drawing room, the curtains faded, the carpet worn but valuable. Library, the books disordered, but well chosen, a thinking man. Dining room, the silver tarnished, untouched, and in every room the same absence. Not physical, a lack of presence. This house had no lady. A house without a lady dies slowly, quietly, without being noticed. Meg knew this. The Calloway house had died the same way. At dinner service, she saw Somerset, across the table, beautiful, fair-haired, a dress from the finest tailor in London. The Duke sat opposite her. This woman wanted this house. It was obvious. Meg set down the tray. She was about to leave. "You?" She turned. Somerset was looking at her. "The tea is cold. Bring a fresh one." Meg glanced at the Duke. He was reading the newspaper, or pretending to. "At once," said Meg. She left. She stopped in the corridor. If this woman became the lady of the house, Mary would go, Thomas would go, Agnes would go, one by one, without reason. Meg returned with the tea, set it down. Wait, Somerset's voice. The cup is dirty. It was not. They both knew it. I'm sorry, said Meg. I'll replace it at once. She left. In the corridor, she stood with the cup in her hand. It was not dirty. No. But Somerset had said it was. Because she could. Because Meg had no power to do anything about it, for now. That night, she asked Thomas, "Who is Lady Somerset?" Thomas toyed with his spoon. "Someone the Duke is seeing. The families want the match." "And you?" Thomas glanced around, lowered his voice. "When she came last month, she took a tray from Mary's hands. Mary cried that night. Before that, she had John dismissed. No reason." He paused. "The Duke does not see it, or he does not wish to." On the third day, Somerset came again. This time she entered the kitchen. Agnes was at the stove. The maid was chopping vegetables. Thomas was carrying supplies through the back door. An ordinary afternoon. The moment Somerset stepped inside, everything froze. "Is this how this kitchen is managed?" Agnes turned. "My lady, I was not speaking to you." Agnes fell silent, and Meg saw something on Agnes's face. Shame. The shame of being diminished in her own kitchen, in her own domain, by a stranger. Somerset continued. She found fault in everything, every speck of dust, every imperfection. Her voice was controlled, but loud. The maid was trembling. Thomas was staring at the floor. Agnes stood with her hands folded, rigid as stone. Meg stood at the doorway. Somerset turned to Agnes. "Who is in charge of this kitchen?" "I am," said Agnes. "The wrong person." Meg stepped inside. "My lady, the window cleaning was scheduled for this afternoon. Mrs. Agnes has been preparing for luncheon since morning. Everything will be set right." Somerset turned, that cold gaze. "You are Calloway, are you not?" "Yes." "A servant?" "Yes." Somerset laughed, short, cold. "Know your place?" She turned, left, silence in the kitchen. Agnes spoke, a single word. "Fool." Meg turned. "That woman will have you dismissed," said Agnes. "Perhaps." "Not perhaps, certainly." "Perhaps," Meg repeated. Agnes looked at her for a long time, then turned away. "Lunch is getting cold. Come and eat." That evening, the Duke summoned her. The study. He closed the door. The Duke remained standing. His face was hard. In the kitchen, who gave Somerset that authority? No one. Then why did you speak? Mrs. Agnes was humiliated in her own kitchen. Something incorrect was said. Someone had to correct it. That is not your place. No, but no one else did it. Silence. Something crossed the Duke's face, very quickly. Meg caught it. Discomfort. But directed at whom? Meg, Somerset, or himself? "If you interfere with Somerset again, you will leave." "I understand." Meg turned. "Calloway." She stopped. The Duke was looking out the window now. His voice had lowered. "That girl, Mary, she was not dismissed." Meg waited. "There was no reason," said the Duke, almost to himself. There was no reason for her to be dismissed. Meg said nothing. She left. As she walked down the corridor, she realized something. The Duke had not wanted Mary dismissed, but he had not stopped it. Because stopping Somerset would mean other things. Family expectations, social pressure, years of protocol. This man was living a conflict. And the one who stands beside a conflicted man is the one who wins. Meg knew this. She had learned it over 10 years. On the 10th day, Meg made a decision. She needed to win Mrs. Holloway. She had observed the head housemaid for days. The way she walked, when she spoke, and to whom, what she reacted to, and she had noticed something. Mrs. Holloway loved this house, truly, deeply. Meg watched the way her hands moved when she handled the silver, almost gently. Sometimes, as she passed through the drawing room, she would touch the wall without even realizing it. When she inspected the guest rooms, she left not a single speck of dust. For this woman, the house was not merely work, and the house was dying, slowly, quietly, the curtains fading, the silver tarnished, no lady, no guiding hand. Mrs. Holloway saw it, but she could do nothing. She was the head housemaid, not the lady. There were lines she could not cross. Meg's lines were different, because Meg was already outside them. She found Mrs. Holloway early in the morning. "May we speak?" The housemaid turned. "About what?" "The guest rooms. The third room window is leaking. When are the Duke's guests arriving?" "In 2 weeks. We have time, but a carpenter should be called." Mrs. Holloway looked at her, calculating. Meg could see it. "Anything else?" "The silver. I could polish it myself, but I did not wish to do so without asking you." "Why?" "Because this is your house," said Meg, "for 18 years. Silence. Mrs. Holloway was about to turn away. "I will send word to the carpenter today," she said, and left. Meg watched her go. The wall had not cracked, but it had trembled. On the 14th day, an important guest arrived. Lord Pemberton, the Duke's business associate. Meg had prepared everything, the rooms, the table, the order of service. Everything was in place. Until Agnes fell ill. Dinner was in 2 hours. The kitchen was chaos. Mrs. Holloway's face was stone, but her eyes held panic. Meg looked for a second, then adjusted her apron. "Take Agnes to her room. Thomas, where's the market list?" I don't know." "It will be in the drawer. Look." He found it, handed it over. Meg looked, calculated. What was ready? What was missing? What could be changed? "All right, listen." And she told them. Who would do what? In what order? Which dishes would be served? Which altered? No one objected. They worked. 2 hours later, dinner was served, complete, hot, on time. Pemberton took his first bite, chewed, looked at the Duke. "Hale, this meal is excellent. Your lady is very capable." The Duke froze. "I have no lady." Pemberton was surprised. "Is that so? Then who managed this evening? I heard your cook was ill." The Duke said nothing. Dinner ended. 10 minutes later, Thomas came into the kitchen, leaned close to Meg. "The Duke asked Mrs. Holloway," he whispered, "who managed tonight." "What did she say?" Thomas smiled. "Calloway." The next morning, the Duke summoned her. Meg had expected it. "Last night," said the Duke, still standing. "Who gave you permission?" "No one." "Then why?" "Agnes was ill. The guest was important. Someone had to act." "That is not your role." "No," said Meg, "but Lord Pemberton was pleased. That was good for you." The Duke looked at her. Meg continued, "I am only a servant, but it was good for you." A long silence. The Duke turned to the window. "If you do something like that again, you will leave." "I understand." Meg turned. "Calloway." She stopped. The Duke was still looking out the window. "Pemberton is a good man," he said, "a careful one. He does not pretend to like what he does not." That was all. He said nothing more, but Meg understood. It was not gratitude. Thomas Hale likely did not know how to express gratitude, but this was his version of it. She left. As she walked down the corridor, that small thing inside her grew. It was not victory. It was too small for that, but it was something. When Somerset came for the 4th time, Meg was ready. This Somerset was different, tenser, sharper than before. Something had angered her. Perhaps the Duke had been cold. Perhaps family pressure had increased. Perhaps something else. But she came with anger and brought it into the house. Within 10 minutes, she had reprimanded 2 servants. Then it was Mary's turn. During service, Mary's hand trembled. A small thing, barely noticeable. The teacup made the faintest sound. Somerset stopped. "This is unacceptable," she said. Her voice was not loud, but everyone heard. "This girl should not be working in this house." Mary froze. The Duke sat at the table, looking at his newspaper. He did not lift his eyes. Meg stood at the doorway. And in that moment, that exact moment, something inside her tightened, that crystalline thing, cold, hard, carried for years. She stepped forward. "My lady," Somerset turned. "Mary has been in this house for 3 months," said Meg. "She rises at 5 every morning. She has never been late. Her hand trembled today because she received a letter from her sick mother last night." Silence. Meg did not know that. She had invented it, but her face did not move. Somerset's eyes narrowed. "You," she said slowly, "you interfered last time as well." "Yes. Why?" Meg paused for a second. "Because the people who work in this house are good people, and when they make mistakes, there is a reason. Should that reason not be asked?" The room froze. The Duke set his newspaper aside. Somerset's expression shifted. First surprise, then anger, then that cold, calculated look. "You will leave this house," she said, to Meg. "If not today, then tomorrow." She turned, left. Silence remained in the room. Mary was trembling. The Duke sat at the table. Meg stood. Then the Duke lifted his head, looked at Meg, and in that look, Meg saw something she had never seen before. Beneath that cold, calculated gaze, something else, a question. "Who is this woman?" He did not say it, but his eyes asked. Meg turned, left. That evening, the Duke summoned her. Meg had expected it. "Somerset spoke to me." "I know. Do you understand what you've done?" "Yes." The Duke stood, walked around the desk, stopped 2 steps in front of her. "Somerset's word carries weight in this house. Not yet, but soon." "I know." "Then why?" Meg paused. She had expected this question. She had prepared a careful answer, strategic, protective. But something else came out instead. "Because that woman walks into a room and erases everyone in it. For no reason. She has power and she uses it. And no one says a word." She stopped. "I did." Silence. The Duke looked at her for a long time. And in that look, Meg saw the question again. Who is this woman? But this time it was closer, sharper, more curious. "Somerset will leave tomorrow," said the Duke. Meg froze. "My lord." "I did not invite her. She came on her own." A pause. "That will not happen again." Meg could not speak. "Go," said the Duke. Meg turned. "Calloway." She stopped. "I have arranged for Agnes's medicine. Mrs. Holloway will give it to her." That was all. Meg stepped out. She paused in the corridor. Agnes's medicine. This man had known Agnes was ill, and he had arranged it, quietly, without saying a word. Meg thought for a long time. There was something in this house, something invisible, but present. There was something in the Duke. He did not show it. Perhaps he did not know how. Perhaps he had never learned, but it was there, and Meg had seen it, for the first time. On the morning of the 22nd day, there was a knock, the side door, the servant's entrance. Thomas stepped inside. His expression was strange. "Miss Calloway, someone is outside, asking for you." "Who?" "Says his name is Calloway." James was leaning against the side wall of the house, hands in his pockets, hair uncombed. dark circles under his eyes. In 3 weeks, he looked 10 years older. Meg stepped outside, stopped. They looked at each other. Meg? That word, that small word, left over from childhood. It struck something inside her, something hard. It did not hurt, but it struck. "What do you want, James?" It was not a question. He stepped closer, stopped. "I came to see you. You've seen me, what else?" James grimaced. That familiar expression of someone accused, yet wanting to be found justified. "I didn't want it to happen like this either, but it did. There was no other way." "I know," said Meg. "There never is." James fell silent. Meg watched him. Her brother, 30 years old, with a boy's face, always a step behind. What did she feel? Anger. It was there, but distant. Affection, that too, closer, warmer. That unsettled her. "James," she said, "why did you really come?" He looked away. A bad sign. "There's a small problem." "How small?" "Gambling, a new debt. The creditors are impatient." Inside Meg, that crystalline thing turned again. Cold, sharp. "How much?" James told her. Meg closed her eyes for a second, processed the number. "Open them again?" "I can't pay it. I'm a servant." "But perhaps the Duke—" "No." "Meg?" "No." A single word, like a blade. "If I go to the Duke, you will see how thin the line is that I stand on here, and it will break." James stared. "Then what am I supposed to do?" Meg looked at him. For a long time, at that face, those dark circles, that wrinkled collar. And something passed through her mind. Will this man never grow up? Perhaps he would. Perhaps he wouldn't. But Meg could no longer save him. Because every time she did, James grew smaller. "I don't know, James," she said, "but I cannot fix this. You always did." That sentence hung in the air. You always did. Yes, she had. For 10 years. And for 10 years, no one had asked. "And what do you want, Meg?" "Go," she said. Her voice did not break. "And this time, solve it yourself." Something passed across James's face. Did it break? Perhaps. Enough? She did not know. But she did not turn back. James left. Meg stood there for a while. Cold air, the smell of the stables. Then she went inside and stopped. The Duke stood in the corridor, at the far end, motionless, watching her. How long had he been there? How much had he heard? They looked at each other, silent, long, heavy. The Duke's face was as it always was, hard, controlled. But his eyes were different. That question was there again. Who is this woman? But this time, something else stood beside it. Meg could not name it exactly. Recognition? Pity? No, not pity. Something else. "Who?" said the Duke. "My brother. James Calloway." It was not a question. Meg understood. He already knew. The name. Perhaps the face as well. "Yes," she said. The Duke said nothing. Meg moved to pass him. "Calloway." She stopped. He took a step. Just one. 2 years ago, he said, "I had a close friend, William Hatch, young, a good man." He paused. Meg waited. James Calloway stripped him at the gambling table. With deceit, with tricks, William could not repay his debt. He did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. Meg understood, and something shifted inside her. Not the crystalline thing this time. Something softer, heavier, like grief, for William and for the Duke. "I didn't know," said Meg. "I didn't know what James had done." "I know." Meg froze. The Duke continued. "I knew from the first day. You are a victim of that family." Silence. Meg could not speak, because that sentence, simple, heavy, unexpected, struck something deep inside her. She had been seen. From the very first day, this man had seen her, and still made her a servant. "Then why," said Meg, Her voice came out level, controlled, but everything lay beneath it. The Duke looked at her. Because making someone with the name Calloway a lady, he stopped. It offended my pride. Silence. Meg stood with that word, pride. William was dead. James was alive, and Meg stood between them, misplaced, wrongly positioned. James ruined that man, said Meg slowly. That is true. I am his sister. That is also true. I cannot change either. No. But, Meg said, William's story is not my story, and what James has done is not what I have done. The Duke looked at her for a long time. No, he said at last, it is not. Silence, the two of them in the corridor. 2 steps between them, wind from outside. Meg was about to leave. Calloway, yes, my lord. The Duke turned to the window, looked outside. James, when he came this morning. What did he want? Meg paused. Money. And? I said no. The Duke turned, looked at her, and in that look, that cold, calculating, measuring look, Meg saw something. For the first time. It was no longer a question, it was an answer. This man had found the answer. Who is this woman? He had found it, but he did not yet know what he had found. That night, Meg went out into the garden. No one told her to. No one called her. The walls closed in, and she stepped outside. The back garden, small, stone, cold. She sat on the stone bench, and there, because no one could see her, in the darkness of night, alone, something happened. She did not cry. She had cried once in the carriage. She had said never again, and she had kept it. But that crystalline thing inside her, that hard, cold, protective thing, cracked just for a moment, without sound, without witness. James's when returned. Her father's forgive me returned. That single tear in the carriage returned. Meg sat with her hands on her knees, eyes closed, and inside, spoken to no one but herself. What do you want, Meg? She still did not know. But now she could ask. That was something. Someone saw her from the window. Thomas Hale was in his study. He had stayed late, as always. He had set his papers aside, walked to the window, he did not know why, and he saw her, Meg, sitting on the bench, hands on her knees, still. The Duke took a step. He was going to go down. He stopped. Why did he stop? He did not know, but he watched for a long time. And that night, for the first time, Thomas Hale thought, this is not a Calloway girl, this is Meg. On the 25th day, Somerset sent a letter, formal, sealed with the family crest. Inside, a single message. The Northwood family is growing impatient. It is time to decide. The Duke left the letter on his desk. Open. He left it there all day. It was still there in the evening. The Duke read it. Once, twice. And he felt nothing. He noticed that. Because feeling nothing was what he was accustomed to. But this time it was different. This time he noticed it. Because he had begun to feel for someone else. It was late that night. The house was quiet. The servants had withdrawn. Mrs. Holloway had gone to her room. The wind moved outside. The Duke went down to the library. He opened the door. Meg was there. She was arranging the shelves. History in one place, law in another, philosophy in another. A candle beside her, her hands quick, her back turned to the door. The Duke stopped. Meg sensed him, but did not turn. It is late, said the Duke. Yes, said Meg. She still did not turn. I had no opportunity during the day. The Duke stepped inside, sat in the chair opposite. Silence. Meg continued working. The Duke watched. 1 minute passed, 2. A letter came from Somerset, said the Duke. Meg stopped, but did not turn. She says it is time to decide. Meg placed the book in her hand onto the shelf. Slowly, then turned. She looked at him. And I left that letter on my desk all day, said the Duke. I did not wish to look at it. Silence. Meg waited. Why are you telling me this? The Duke looked at her. Because, he said, you are the only person in this house I can still speak to honestly. That sentence hung in the room. Meg took it in, quietly, without showing it. But she took it in. Then let me be honest, said Meg. If Somerset becomes the lady of this house, Agnes will go, Thomas will go, Mary will go, one by one. I know. And you will go on reading your newspaper. Something passed over the Duke's face. I know, he said again. But this time it came out differently, heavier. Meg stepped forward, came to the table, sat down, no one told her to. She sat of her own accord, facing him. I'm sorry about William, she said. The Duke froze. I did not know what James had done, but it happened and it affected you. She paused. It affected me as well, only in a different way. How? James was always rescued, said Meg. I was always the one doing the rescuing. We both grew up in the wrong place. The Duke watched her for a long time. And now? Now, said Meg, I am here as a servant, but I know this. She stopped. The Duke waited. I run this house, not yet, not entirely. But in 2 weeks, Agnes trusts me. Thomas trusts me. Mrs. Holloway is still distant, but she asks me about the keys. I have noticed, said the Duke. Then you know as well, said Meg. This house needs a lady, and that lady is not Somerset. Silence, a long, heavy silence, carrying many things within it. The Duke stood, walked to the window, looked outside. London was dark. A distant lantern flickered. The wind went on. I made you a servant on the first day, he said, his back still turned to her. Because I hated the name Calloway. Because I hated William. I know. It was wrong. Meg said nothing. The Duke turned. This house needs a lady, he said. For 3 years I refused that truth. But now I see. The house has already found one. Something shifted inside Meg. That question, what do you want, Meg, for the first time, came close to an answer. She wanted to be seen. And this man was seeing her. He had seen her from the first day. He himself had said so. But now he saw her differently. This is not a proposal, said Meg. Her voice was steady. Not yet, said the Duke. Then what is it? The Duke looked at her. A recognition, he said. For the first time, I am placing you where you belong. Meg looked at him for a long time. Then she stood. I have one condition, she said. The Duke waited. For 10 years, I held a house together. No one saw. No one asked. I do not wish to be unseen again. That question passed across the Duke's face one final time. Who is this woman? And the answer came, complete, clear, irreversible. This is Meg. Agreed, said the Duke. That night, as Meg returned to her room, she stopped in the corridor. She looked out through the small window. The stables lay beyond, dark, cold. What had she felt on the first day, looking out of that window? Confinement. And now? She did not know exactly. But it was not confinement. It was not the first time she had felt it. But never this clearly. A month later, Mrs. Holloway came to Meg. She held the keys to the house, large, heavy iron. She extended them. Meg took them. Neither spoke. Then Mrs. Holloway turned. She was about to leave. Mrs. Holloway, she stopped. 18 years, said Meg. You are the one who kept this house standing. I know that. The head housemaid stood still for a moment. Then, very briefly, almost imperceptibly, she inclined her head and left. 2 months later, James sent a letter, short, handwritten. I paid my debt myself. You need not ask how I found the money, but I did. One more sentence beneath it. You always solved things. You were right. I must solve them myself now. Meg read the letter once, set it on the table, looked out the window. London lay beyond, noisy, cold, grey, as always. But Meg was looking from the front now. Not the back garden, the front, a small thing, but it was something. And when her father came for his first visit, ill-weary, moving slowly, Meg met him at the door, at the front door. Her father stepped inside, looked at the house, looked at his daughter. He tried to straighten his coat, that habit, that old familiar habit. Meg moved first. She unfastened the buttons, fastened them again, properly from top to bottom. Her father fell silent. My daughter, you. I am well, father, said Meg. His eyes filled with tears. Hers did not. But she took his hand firmly for a long time. And this time she did not hurry to let go. Thank you for listening to the story all the way to the end. Please tell us which city you're watching from and what the story made you feel. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss new stories.